My feet were itchy. Felt it every day now, sitting on this rough concrete steps outside my apartment. I strained to see what was ahead of me. There it was again, itchy feet, and a pulling feeling in my chest, and my eyes, they couldn't see further than that brown brick garage at the end of the path. What's wrong with me? I was 27 years old, ambitious, living in England, and dying to see further than that brick garage. I knew there was more to life. I was itching, aching, straining to move on. I remember saying to my dear old dad, he wasn't yet 50, "Dad, what's wrong with me? I have everything a young woman could want, but I want more. What could it be?" I had taken several courses over the years in programming and was working for Philips Data Systems. But I knew there was more to life. I knew there was more than that brick garage. Idly flipping through a magazine one day, I read an article all about Vancouver, Canada. It said I could lay on the beach in the daytime and ski on the local mountains at night. Wow, that grabbed my attention. It is technically possible, by the way. But I wonder, could I give everything up just to see beaches and oceans and mountains? You bet I could. Just watch me. The immigration process took an agonizing 9 months. I felt anxious but excited. And through it all, I felt the quiet presence of an angel on my shoulder. I gave away my record collection to Lynn, my roommate, on the understanding that if I returned, she'd give it all back to me. Okay, now I'm ready to make that big leap of faith. The day finally came when I said goodbye to everything I loved. My family, my friends, my job, my car, and then whoosh, that Ward airplane took off. 9 hours later, I arrived in Toronto. In 1975, there were no direct flights to Vancouver, but I had a plan. I was going to fly into Toronto and then hop on a Greyhound bus. Take me 5 days to get to Vancouver, but hey, I could see the countryside along the way. When I'd left Philips Data Systems, I'd been given a reference, along with the phone number of someone I should talk to as soon as I arrived. So, with my bag and my backpack and my suitcases surrounding me, I phoned Mr. Ashton Wiley from the airport. My plan was to make an appointment to see him the following week, but he was expecting my call. My manager in England had given him the heads up. "Where are you?" he said. "I'll send my secretary to pick you up." Wow. That guardian angel had flown all the way to Canada with me. Who knew? When that secretary arrived, I don't know who was more surprised. I was surrounded by a mountain of luggage, and this secretary was a man. They do things a bit differently out here, I thought. I was hungry and thirsty, but dinner had to wait. I was on my way for a job interview. The secretary wound through the traffic in Toronto and finally arrived at the plush offices of Mr. Ashton Wiley. I learned he was the top guy in Canada in Philips Data Systems. He was around 40-ish, tall, slim, with a New Zealand accent. Aha, I thought, another immigrant. I might have an ally here. Just about then, I lost my nerve. I realized I must look a mess. I needed a shower, a hairdo, a makeup job, and I'd been wearing these casual clothes for the past 18 hours. But Mr. Wiley was curious and caring and seemed more interested in my knowledge of computers than he was in my business attire. It became clear that the computer I'd been working on in England for the past 12 months had only just arrived in Toronto. Overnight, I'd become a guru. Who knew? When my tummy growled, Mr. Wiley realized I needed dinner and took me to a cozy little restaurant just around the corner. He said he was going to give me a more in-depth interview the next day. But tonight he was going to introduce me to Canadian fare. Ever had clam chowder? No. How about fresh corn on the cob dripping with butter? Wow, sounded fabulous. I was starving. At the end of the dinner, Mr. Wiley took me back to my hotel and said he gave me the address of somewhere I needed to be at 9 a.m. the next day. I was exhausted. I knew I had a connection with Mr. Wiley, but I knew I had to really impress him the next day to get a great job. The following day, I found my way to the offices, and after many more hours of discussion, I was offered a fantastic job, better than I ever imagined possible. I made it clear that I wanted to live and work in Vancouver, but I was willing to work in Toronto just to help get this new computer launched. As I looked around the offices, I realized that all the programmers were men. In England, they'd all been women. Genders were sure changing while I'm here. I felt eager to fit in and begin my work. I vaguely thought, I wonder if they have women in their sales force. They didn't in England. Food for thought. Now, I'm ready to explore Toronto, starting with the transit system. I realized I need coins to put in a box to get a token to get on a tube. That was a long-winded way of doing things, I said to the gal I sat next to. She laughed and agreed with me. Jane and I became firm friends. We spent the day together at the CNE, the Canadian National Exhibition. She was going to teach me some Canadianisms. When I needed the ladies' room, she said, "You have to stand in that lineup over there." The what? The lineup. She meant a queue. When I saw the big sign on the wall said bathrooms, I thought, I wonder if I have toilets in there too. And then there was the GO train. Go? Where does it go to? I asked. Jane just shook her head and laughed. We had a great time. All day we were enjoying each other's company. At the end of the day, she took me back to my hotel and said, "I'm looking for someone to share my apartment with. Would you like to check it out?" As I laid my weary head down that night, I thanked my guardian angel. And I slept like a log till noon the next day. The next day, I had a flashback. I remembered I had been to see a fortune teller a couple of years before I'd left England. Lynn and I, my roommate at that time, we went to see the fortune teller, and I was a little bit concerned. I thought, life should just open up and shouldn't be peeked at ahead of time, like Christmas presents under a tree. But when we got there, the fortune teller looked at my palm and said, "You're going to have a completely new life." Really? Am I going to find the man of my dreams? No. But you are going to have a very different life. Oh no. Am I going to get pregnant? No. But I was going to have a whole new life. You know, I hadn't thought about that incident for years. And here I was in a new country, just about to start a whole new life. I hopped out of bed and prepared to meet my new roommate, Jane. Jane's apartment was lovely. It had gold shag carpet and a huge bathtub with a shower inside and a curtain all the way around. And the expansive windows on the 16th floor were dressed in fine flowing fabrics. And the couch had huge cozy cushions. Now I could relax. As I laid my head down that night, I thanked my guardian angel. My work kept me incredibly busy for the next 3 months. I hardly had time to socialize, but I do remember being in awe of Ontario in the fall. As the chill came, the leaves changed color. A trip to Lake Simcoe in the fall with Jane excited me as I gathered armfuls of huge maple leaves in a myriad of different colors. I couldn't see that brown brick garage anywhere. I could hardly bring it to mind, but I could see forever across that big blue lake. As the chill of fall kept biting at my fingertips, I remembered my original plan. From all I had read about Canada, I did not want to be in Ontario in the winter, trudging through the snow. When I'd left England, I had sent my trunk on ahead of time. Sheepskin coat, warm sweaters, pair of boots, I could use them all. They'd probably in Vancouver by now. Time for another chat with Mr. Ashton Wiley and take another leap of faith. Mr. Wiley wanted me to stay in Toronto, but I had a plan, and I had a Greyhound bus ticket. I was adamant, and eventually he found me a new position out west. When I told him of my Greyhound bus plan, he said, "What? A Greyhound bus across Canada in November? Absolutely out of the question. Phillips will pay for my flight." I was excited. I was going to get to finish my plan. But I was nervous. Would I find good friends like Ashton and Jane? Would I be accepted as another immigrant? Would I find the man of my dreams? When I arrived in Vancouver, I was given a warm welcome. It wasn't long before I remembered that original magazine article that started it all. I pulled on my boots. walk to the beach in English Bay with my newfound friends, and plan to ski on Grass Mountain that night. I was home!